You're listening to Local Rapport. This is a podcast where you'll hear stories, roles, and experiences of people from Calhoun County, Texas, and the surrounding areas. At the core, Local Rapport is about people just like you. I hope to build relationships and appreciation for those that make up our community. I also believe that what they have to share has universal appeal, because our county may be small, but everyone's story is unique, and I'm confident that you'll be encouraged or invested in what it is they have to share. I'm your host, Sam Flores, and I'm excited to introduce to you this week's guest. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this week's episode. It's going to be a unique one for sure. Last week was actually intentionally done to wrap up season 1, and I had planned on this week unrolling season 2 and moving ahead with Local Rapport, but with the recent rock phenomenon that hit Port Lavaca, I thought, you know what? This may actually be a great way to wrap up the first season of Local Rapport, and I thought, you know, what a missed opportunity it would be if I didn't actually go out there and hang out with the locals and kind of get a feel about what an event like this means to our community. And so for those that follow along with my Facebook and YouTube page, you likely recall I did a video in jest, just making some comments on the story about this Facebook post about some kids throwing rocks that ended up making our local paper, radio, and television news. It actually ended up in other states like Tennessee. I mean, it was such a interesting phenomenon. And what's interesting is that what likely brought so much attention to this post was the community's response to posts through memes. And it had become a running joke of Port Lavaca Listens. And if you would like to hear that story in more detail and even look at some of those memes, you can still check out the video, How Strong Is Your Meme Game? That's on the YouTube page for Local Rapport and even the Facebook page. That video will definitely still be up. And for this episode, I just want to spend some time highlighting what the video wasn't able to cover, which was the actual event and everything that went into it, like with our city stepping in to put together an event on a week's notice and all the details in between. I'm able to hang out with some locals and get their take on there. I will say from the very beginning, just for your listening experience, that there will be some wind and there will be some inconsistency with the audio quality just due to the elements. And I just want to apologize in advance. That may be a little bit hard to listen to, some of the things that are being said just due to the environment. I just want to kind of open it up with what we heard from Haynes. Haynes Searcy is a bivocational youth pastor for Alamo Heights, and he kicked off and opened our event. And so I want to start with checking out what he had to say.
We all know how this got started. Am I right, Aiden? Aiden walked into my church that night. There's your little sister. And they said, "We are celebrities." So the 3 children come to our church, and we have the privilege of having them at our church every Wednesday night. And so they took this in stride, and I'm just so glad they weren't upset about this. But as a parent, I was a little upset. I'm going to tell you, even as a pastor, I want to tell you what I was thinking about, because, you know, as pastors, we always want to combat somebody with scripture, right? So the first scripture I thought about was found right here in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 7, where Jesus is talking to a bunch of religious people, and they had just tried to catch Jesus, but Jesus stoops down and picks up a stone. Check this out. And he says, "Those of you without sin, cast the first stone." So I thought about that scripture, and I'm like, you know, how fitting is that for this event? But then I started thinking about, you know what? That's not really what this is about. That's what I wanted this to be about, but that's not what this is about. To be honest with you, what this is about is a community coming together and just having a nice, beautiful day like we're having right now. Am I right? That's right. It's not about judging. It's not about throwing anyone under the bus, because, I mean, I'm full of sin, so I can't judge anyone who make mistakes, and I've made mistakes on social media before. So I'm just telling you, you know, sometimes we don't mean to do certain things, and so I thought about sharing this with you instead. Community, I want you to listen to this. Children, listen to this. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Here it is. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgave you. And what a compassionate God that we have, that no matter what, He forgives us. And so that's what this is about. This is a community-wide event saying, you know what, we're not going to tear down anyone. We're going to come here and have fun. And throwing rocks can be fun, right, Aiden? Aiden had a lot of fun that day. And so, Aiden, throw your heart out, buddy. They got a pile of rocks just for you and your sisters, okay?
And after Haynes shared his mic, we also got to hear from Jody Weaver, who works with our city. She has a very influential role. And again, we don't always get to see what happens behind the scenes, but what she expressed to us during her moment of sharing on the mic was actually how we ended up with these rocks and how it's pretty important to keep them where they're at.
I ask, why did they put rocks out here? Why not some nice green grass? You know, and the Parks Board didn't talk about that at the time during the planning stages. And if you've lived in Port Lavaca for any amount of time and been down here, you would notice that the grass did not grow very well when we did have it along the edge of the peninsula here. And that's because grass and salt water don't mix real well. And so we decided, instead of fighting that continually, that we were going to just instead clear out the grass and put nice landscape limestone rocks in here. We have a sidewalk, a concrete sidewalk, walking path that goes through the park. But of course, some people will walk across these to get to the stepped bulkhead for fishing. So you can walk on them. They're not going to be super comfortable walking in bare feet, but in your shoes, you can walk across them. They're not round. They've got angles to them, so they should set in place well, so they're not going to roll under your feet or slip as you're walking across. They're large enough that when we do get a high tide in the area, they shouldn't, start rolling around and losing them out into the bay. So these are limestone rocks. They came from a quarry in up north of Austin, Texas. And we have about 400 tons of limestone rock distributed through here in our phase one. That amounted to a total of about $43,000 worth of limestone rocks to decorate in our bayfront and to enhance its appearance and keep it looking nice. So, whereas we along with most of the community agree that skipping rocks and throwing rocks like we're doing here today is a fun activity for kids of all ages, we don't want to use these rocks. These are special rocks. These are pretty big. They're not cheap. They came specially from Marble Falls, Texas, to come live in Port Lavaca, Texas, along our bayfront. So we want to keep these where they're at.
Since she offered for there to be like a little mini tour of the park, and it has been a while since I actually made a lap around, I went ahead and went on that tour, and it was actually pretty nice to check out what all the fuss was about, because the rocks that are out there are actually nice. And I have to say that, I can understand why there's the argument to be made that we need to, take care of what we have and, make sure that this is something that we can kind of upkeep and, have some pride in. And I do have to say, though, that the balance in all that is that the good news is we still have the freedom for kids to still be kids. And that's why it's with a great sense of humor that the father of one of the children that was a part of throwing the rocks actually donated plenty of good choice rocks to actually be used in the festival here. And so a special shout out to this father for providing the rocks for this event. And I'm pretty sure they're still there. There's plenty there that can be used if anyone wants to practice the rock skipping. What was there to do at this event? So there was things that you could have chose from. You could have skipped some rocks, and thanks to Sheriff Vickery for actually sharing with the public a lesson in rock skipping. That was something that was done and, kind of sparked a little bit of, for those little kids that probably, never took a shot at skipping some rocks, they were given that opportunity to, and, kind of flex their muscles if they wanted to be competitive. And speaking of competition, there was even a rock throwing contest where kids just lined up and held a rock in their hand and just chucked that rock as far as they could. And so there was a little bit of that. There was even some special rocks that were hitting around the place that you could go on a hunt for, and some crafts. And you even had an ability to connect with local vendors and, go on a little bit of a shopping, or maybe just enjoy some of the food from the vendors that were able to make this event. So I was not able to meet with all the vendors present at this event, but I did get to talk to Gracie. She is actually a very young local snow cone business owner who was at this event and had the opportunity to serve locals some treats.
So it was like going around Facebook. It was like sort of a meme, like throwing rocks, and they made it into like a festival, and they needed some vendors, so we signed up and we came out here.
So you volunteered to come out as a vendor. I hear that your snow cones are pretty good. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ice is like a slushy, it's not icy or crunchy. It's like slushy type.
And so this is a snow cone truck that you run yourself.
Yes.
How old are you, and how long have you been doing this?
I'm 16. I've been doing it for maybe about 2 or 3 months already.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How's it been like serving a community like Port Lavaca, and what have you learned?
It's good. Patience is what I've learned. Patience. They're really kind, generous, supportive, and I'd do it again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So where are you from? Like, where did you guys start doing
I'm from
this?
Placido, and between Victoria and Port Lavaca, and we started in Placido, actually, in front of the post office, and we'd get business there. Not much though, but my family would go all the way out there and support me and my business and my family, and then we moved on to Bloomington, and they're very supportive, a lot of business, and I'm happy for that.
Awesome. I really thought it was cool to have a local vendor that was as young as Gracie, and I definitely do wish her the best. There were other vendors that were present that I was able to see, such as there was the Trevino's and their food truck, that you had Scents Down South. And what I enjoyed, there was an area where you can buy shirts that had Port Lavaca Rock Festival. And personally, I actually was able to purchase the official Port Lavaca-opoly that is available. And so many of you guys may know, but there was actually a Walmart version of Port Lavaca-opoly. And that kind of caused a little bit of a stir because Main Street Theater was actually putting together, and it was going to take a little bit more time, but an official Port Lavaca initiated game board. And so that is actually available. And so if you're interested, like I was, in purchasing that game, it's actually available on any of the, well, I say any, but most of the like Main Street businesses that are open along that downtown area. And so you can probably hop in a business and they'll likely have it there for sale. And so, really fun game board. I'm excited. I just got it. It looks great, and I'm excited to break it in pretty soon. So again, I'm at the point now where I would have had more actual audio from locals that I was able to talk to that evening. But man, unfortunately, I missed out on this opportunity to connect with people, to share what their expectations were of this event and how they either had those expectations met or had a fun time, or what their takeaway was with you. And again, operator error, I was not able to get those audio files recovered. And so one of the other things though that I do want to share is that, there was a nice couple here that if you're watching on the video, I'm just going to have a voiceover of their image of them communicating, and I'm going to do my best to just kind of communicate what it is that they were basically sharing with me. And I just have to say, this couple here was very positive. I know the gentleman's name was Sam. It was an easy name to remember since we share the same name. But him and his wife just communicated that they really thought that this was a positive effort for Port Lavaca, and that the attention that Port Lavaca was getting that was, positive and a fun spin on just events that were happening, instead of it just kind of being something negative that the community was going through, was a really huge lift of their spirits. And they really keyed in on that word supportive. They liked that there was an opportunity for the community to just be supportive of one another and just kind of have a good time. Just the fact that we had an event to them was special because it meant that there was an opportunity for just people to hang out and have a good time, enjoy the moment, and be able to just kind of remember that there was an actual season of time where people were just present and supportive and, using this time to just join in community in a very fun way. And I also got to talk to some of the people who are part of the team that made this happen. And, because we got to ask, how do we even get a festival out of this? Well, great thing is that I got to connect with Jackie here, and she was the one that started it all. And it was pretty cool to just hear her take on what the past week looked like for them.
Having a festival, and what has your role been during this whole crazy thing?
My name is Jackie Grissom, and we got, it was my idea, obviously, and we got here because of one Facebook post of a lady that took a picture of some kids throwing rocks into the bay, and all of a sudden the Facebook memes started, and then next thing I know, I'm calling our city event manager and saying, hey, let's throw a rock festival because everybody's just so into this rock thing, and 1 week is all we had to plan, and it blew up. It's been all over social media, all over the news, and not just our news. It's been in Houston news. It's gone to Memphis, Tennessee. It's just been everywhere, and it's gone off, and it's just crazy insane.
So you said that there was only a week to pull this off. So what are some maybe behind the scenes things that you've been able to see with your own eyes that maybe the general public may not be in the know of?
The general public, I don't think realizes how much time and effort go into these things. We had zero budget, period.
Okay.
So everything that happened at the Rock Fest was donated by either one of our wonderful volunteers or like the family of the original rock throwing children donated all of the rocks. It takes a team, an outstanding team of everybody has their strengths in their team to pull something like this off, especially in a week.
Yeah. So if there's maybe, I'm not sure if you would name drop or anything like that, but what were some of those traits out of your team that you saw that really shined this past week?
Let's see. Okay, we've got Tanya French. She is our city and chamber event coordinator. She handles all of our PR. She handles all of our radio stations, television stations. She handles all of the newsletters, all of the advertisements. Everything, newspapers. She's our PR. And then we have Shelly Bartels, who handles all of our vendors. She did an outstanding job lining up vendors in such a short amount of time. And then I have my team. I call them my team because they have followed me throughout the years. I could never do it without them. We all have our strengths. Everybody's got creativeness. Everybody brings something to the table, and everybody works and sacrifices until they just can't anymore.
Right. And hey, last question. So something like this is pretty noteworthy for a town like ours, but maybe just from your personal view of everything, if you had 1 foot in and 1 foot out, what is something like this mean for our community, overall?
Overall, I believe that our community needed this. I think that they needed to come together, especially after the 2 years we've had, facing COVID and the school problems and, truthfully, the political arguments. Yeah. I think we just needed something to come together as a community. I was just in complete awe, and my cup really does runneth over with the amount of support and love that our community has shown throughout this entire ordeal. We always had those naysayers, but like we told them, we made sure we understood that the kids knew what rocks and what rocks not to use from now on. Yeah. And so that really helped the naysayers who thought that we were promoting them throwing rocks.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm baffled, truthfully, at the amount of support we've had from our community. Awesome. I love our community.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. And, again, we're grateful for everything y'all done.
Well, thank you so much. And we're grateful for people like you getting the word out. Thank you. Word out. Thank you.
While Jackie was talking, she gave a shout out to Tanya French, which we had the pleasure of being on this podcast before. And she was getting it. She was so busy, just like everyone there. They were just bending themselves over backwards to get things in order. And I just have to say, I'm just super proud that I was able to still have an opportunity to connect with her, even though she had a super long day. And so she was able to share some of her thoughts on what this event meant to her and the city and the people as a whole.
I think think it was a great event for the community. I loved watching all the kids skipping rocks. If we hadn't done anything else at this event, the kids skipping rocks, to me, that was amazing. They all had so much fun, just down there with rocks and water. They weren't on their cell phones. They weren't doing anything else. They were just skipping rocks in the water. And to me, that was great. It was great to see families come out. We had a lot of family units here, and that meant a lot to me and to the team.
Yeah. And one question I've been asking people here is that, objectively, just kind of looking at the pulse of the community, how has what happened this past week or 10 days, personally, what did you take?
I saw the community unite and have fun. There was a lot of humor, a lot of just bantering, and people laughing and joking with each other, people they knew, people they didn't. And I thought that was fun. And then when Jackie and Shelly called me and said, hey, let's have an event, it was a great time to capitalize on it. The timing had to be right. We had a drive-in movie scheduled, so the timing was just perfect. And it was, if we'd waited 3 months, 3 months to properly plan an event, I don't think it would have been the same. And I think the fact that we could mobilize quickly and work with the city manager and get the okay and mobilize quickly and to get it done, we had an incredible team of volunteers. Jackie came up with the idea. Shelly Bartels, who doesn't get near enough credit anytime because she works in my office, and I just kind of assume that she will help. But she's out here on her own time helping, and it's an entire family thing for them. Her husband, her kids, Jackie's husband, a whole slew of volunteers that have been working all week, long days to make this happen. And we had fun along the way too. There were some stressful times, but mostly we had fun because we were excited. And I find it ironic, and you will be the first one to get this, and you are here and you know this. We planned this to coincide with our drive-in movie night. And sometimes I think God has a weird way of doing things, because God said, you're not having a drive-in movie tonight. Screen was up, and screen came down with the winds. But had the drive-in movie not been scheduled for tonight, this event wouldn't have happened tonight. So all things happen as they're meant to, and that's my takeaway from today. So yes, we'll have the aftermath of dealing with the screen and things like that, but all things happen as they're meant to, and I think that's what I saw today.
Okay, so before letting you go, I was just curious if there were some things that maybe you didn't get to share with some of the other sources that you've been in communication with, and just some things you wanted to cover. I just want to ask you, what are those things that you would like to share?
I want to cover how great it is to have a city that allows us to do these things for the community and embraces doing that, but also so many volunteers that come up and they share their ideas, they share their time, they share their talents, and people just beyond that you wouldn't believe. Shelly Bartels, Eric Bartels, her entire family, Haas and Rhonda Mason, Jackie and Josh Grissom, they are there for everything that we do every single time, and their families. And and there were a lot of volunteers that came together today for this event, but also our public works team. Our public works team is out here cleaning up. They mowed, they got trash cans out, they hauled barricades for me, they put up banners, and those guys are often the unsung heroes, and they do a lot. And so I just want to make sure that everybody that's involved gets that recognition.
Hey, well said, Tanya. And again, we appreciate every single one of you guys. Thanks for making this happen.
Thank you.
So at the end here, I just want to just kind of share with you what are some of my overall takeaways from this event, just in kind of combination with everyone else's input that I was able to share during this time, or unfortunately not able to share just due to operational error on my end. But overall, it just really seems that after an intense year like 2020, where we had COVID and uncertainty when it came to our jobs and unrest because of the things going on that even caused tension between different people groups, it was a very tense time. And going into 2021, it unfortunately didn't necessarily get better because people still needed jobs, people still had bills to pay, and there was still unrest and uncertainty just with the day-to-day decisions that people were making, whether it was to wear a mask or not, or to get a vaccine or not, or maybe it was still the unrest of whether the people that you voted for to put in office were people that others would agree upon or think differently about you for. It was just, you name it, there was going to be a disagreement on it. And here we are on this side of the fence where we had an experience at this festival where we were able to just press pause as a community and just take a moment to hang out, enjoy each other's company, kind of just agree to have fun. I think it was an experience where the city was able to meet a need, which was for us, we needed a time to just kick back, relax, allow the time that we spent together in a way kind of be the social therapy that we needed. And of course, you know, if there is any kind of thing that you can use to leverage a good experience and a great opportunity, why not take it? And that's what this past week seemed to be. And so I'm excited that I was able to be a part of that and just get to hang out and meet new people. I just have to say it's always fun making friends, and I'm just really proud to be in this community. I really am. People are going to think differently about this. I know I've heard so many different opinions. I've heard people say, well, that's what happens when you're in a small town and there's nothing to do and you're that bored. And you know, the idea there, of course, is a little bit more cynical, but if we can just kind of look at it from a positive perspective of just saying, you know, if this was an opportunity we took to get along a little bit better with each other, to me, it's worth the price of admission. And I'm really glad that this is the direction that it went. And so I look forward to there being other opportunities for us just to connect. And even if it's through something like this or something similar or a different kind of event or festival, whatever it takes to just kind of come together as a community is always a step in the right direction. As always, I appreciate you who have taken time to check this out and give it a listen. I just want to say thanks for all those that have been patient with just the learning curve that I'm experiencing and trying to learn how to do video and audio and doing some editing and actually trying to put together somewhat of a script. And, you know, all this is kind of a different kind of, it's a different kind of project for me for sure. But it's something that I enjoy doing because it helps me get more in touch with our locals. And so I look forward to us coming back again next week. I really hope that you guys are just able to, you know, experience some positive things in your life at this time. And as always, I wish you the best. See y'all soon. Hey, you've made it to the end. I am so grateful that you took time to listen to this episode. If you've enjoyed it, please feel free to share. This show's available on so many different platforms such as YouTube, Google, Apple, and Spotify. And if you've been a fan of this podcast, I would greatly appreciate your thoughts and review on Apple Podcast. Thank you so much for your support. I can't wait till next time, and I hope you guys have an awesome week.